Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, so we're talking about collaboration, a little bit about leverage, and a Caribbean island. What's that story? Will Dawes, welcome.
Thank you for having me. When I was 12, Mom and Dad got offered to manage a bone fishing resort on the east end of Grand Bahama Island, an island called Deepwater Key. And Deepwater Key had 8 cottages on it, none of which were occupied. They were all vacation homes of different people, and the fishing resort. And the fishing resort was pretty exclusive, 75 miles away from the nearest town, which was Freeport. So you had to take, it wasn't even a concrete road. It was dirt, and it was one giant pothole is what we called it. It took about 2.5 hours to get from Freeport to Deepwater Key. And a little town on the end called McLeanstown with 200 people. And so we picked up from my 11th year of life and moved to this 2.5 mile island in a tropical paradise. And it was covered in no-see-ums. Are you familiar with what a no-see-um is?
No-see-ums, yeah, they're really
Because
annoying.
of the Florida house we are. Yeah.
I think it's called can't-see-ums.
Yes. And so when we moved there, initially the allure of new experience was really cool. However, after being there for 6 or 7 months, I was going crazy. I had done everything there was to do. I had caught every fish there was to catch. I'd gotten my scuba diving certification. I had snorkeled every reef and scuba dived every blue hole, and
Wow.
I transitioned into fly fishing because that was all there was to do at that point. And I was going crazy. And at 12, I looked at my mom and dad and said, I can't stay here another year.
How many kids were there? Any?
0.
Wow.
Yeah, the nearest town, so it was an island. You had to take a ferry from the mainland over to the island. The nearest town, McLeanstown, had some kids, but again, it was 4 major families, about 200 people in the town, 1 church, and of course, at that point I'm very pale, white. I had very
Me
blonde
too.
hair. Yeah, very blonde hair, very blue eyes, and 75 miles from anyone else that looked like me. And so it was a different experience for them having a young person there. The prior managers didn't have kids that were there with them, and so I didn't have the opportunity to engage with those kids, to take a ferry across the inlet to be able to go to the town. And yeah, so we looked at 2 boarding schools, one called the Hill School in Philadelphia and another one called Pinecrest in Fort Lauderdale. And Pinecrest made the most sense. We could take a puddle jumper, a little twin prop from Fort Lauderdale Airport directly to the island every long weekend and every holiday. So we settled on Pinecrest in my 7th grade year.
Man.
I went to boarding school.
Wild.
If you're an only child.
I'm the youngest of 7, but the next youngest was already, she was 8 years older than I was when I was born. So Michelle was already out of the house at that point when we moved to Deepwater Key.
Might as well have been an only child then, huh?
At that point, yeah, but my oldest sibling was 17 when I was born. So I didn't know Kim until I was old enough to have a drink with her.
Yeah.
Right? She was 38, I was 21, and we finally got to sit down and have a conversation.
Crazy. Wow, that's a cool story, man. So life is about stories and the ebb and flow, and you made it back to Ohio.
After a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very strong rebellious spirit in me. I tend to like to do the opposite of what I'm told, or at least look into the opposite of what I'm told. So when Mom and Dad, eventually they got to a point where they wanted to retire from running the fishing business, and they retired from Freeport, Grand Bahama in the Caribbean back to Ohio. And that was my senior year of high school. They did that. And I said, no way, I will never move back to Ohio. And moved into a friend's house with his parents and self-enrolled into Florida Atlantic University.
Wow.
To go to college. And they were kind of like, oh, I guess he means it, right? So I got a little 1-bedroom efficiency and went to FAU for about 6 months, my first semester. And this was in the mid-'90s, and I discovered South Beach at that point in my life, and didn't do too well at FAU my first semester because I discovered South Beach.
Was the crowbar still happening down there at that time?
Yeah, there. It's interesting that season of life. You kind of learn. I spent all those years in the dorm, away from my parents, seeing them very situationally, and now as I've looked back and sort of deconstructed my upbringing, most of us, we all have attachments. And we hope as parents now that our kids have strong attachments to us instead of their peer group. And I didn't have any attachments to my parents at that point, right? They were 130 miles away. So all of my attachments were to my peer group. And as they graduated out, and it's a very prestigious high school. They went to Brown, Duke, Yale, Princeton, Harvard. They all went to very nice schools, but it was like a bomb dropped when they graduated. Everybody left.
Yeah.
And so upon graduation of my own class, everybody left, and I was left in the same area after all of my friends were gone, seeking more attachments. And the culture of electronic music in South Beach was very welcoming, very friendly. Everybody's welcomed into this big, warm circle of friendship and music and dance culture.
That's right.
Looking back on it, I think that was a major appeal to me of that culture and lifestyle, but ultimately ended up prioritizing that over what I should have been doing.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, never did it.
Yes. At that point, it was either I continue to stay in Florida and live that lifestyle or go to Savannah, Georgia. And I had a brother and a sister and still have some family in Savannah. And I went there and lasted 6 months in Savannah, and stumbled on the exact same crowd, started doing the exact same things.
Is this the party crowd?
Yeah.
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 Is this where you learned the DJ skill?
Yes. Well, actually, so there it was just in the music. I love the music. I love the culture. I love the people. I didn't start officially DJing until I moved to Ohio.
Bringing a little South Beach up north.
Yeah, I think it was because nobody here was playing the music I wanted to listen to. And I had a collection of all of this music, and I was like, well, I'm going to start playing all of this stuff when I moved up here. But in Savannah, I had a friend who, his girlfriend was from Austin, Texas, and she said, I hate it here. I loved Austin. She said, I hate it in Savannah. I want to go back home. And I said, okay. And she looked at me like, really? I said, sure. So we loaded up my little Chevy Spectrum hatchback full of our stuff and drove from Savannah to Texas. And we hit the Texas border, and I was like, we did it. Yes, we made it. And she's like, no. No, clearly you've never been to Texas. We have about 8 hours before.
Another day.
We have a whole nother day of driving before we'll get to Austin. And I turned 21 in Austin and loved Austin, probably one of my favorite cities I ever lived in.
Yeah, it's another great music scene.
Yes. Yeah. That when I was there, it was the music capital of the country. Okay. And it was just a neat, eclectic group of people from all different cultures. It was more culturally aware than most of the other places I'd been. Again, being isolated on a 2.5 mile island around a culture of people who were of a different ethnicity than myself. I had experienced some of the negative sides of what it was like to be a different color.
Yeah.
And as a result, had zero tolerance, still to this day, have zero tolerance for that. Because I was on the receiving end of it.
Sure. I mean, it's part of living life and ebb and flow, and you learn from your experiences.
Yes. So I think this gutsy move that I love to talk about is that realization. I just turned 21, and everybody around me was doing the best they could with what life had to offer them. Working at a gas station or a car wash. And there was no big plan.
Just
this
get
was
by.
it. This was it, right? Get a paycheck, go party it out all weekend, rinse and repeat on Monday.
They write songs about that.
Yes, yes. And even at that point, at 21, I knew that was not. I had needed more than that. I had to have something more. And just like the saying goes, have a plan and God laughs. Well, I had that inkling, and I came back to Ohio to see my mom and dad, who I hadn't seen for 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And there were no cell phones back then, right? So it wasn't like we could FaceTime or pick up the phone and call each other. Like it was, I was MIA for a decent period of time. And when I came back to Austin, my roommate at the time had gotten caught shoplifting and gotten my car impounded.
That crowd.
Yeah.
Nice
Yes. No, wrong. And so literally I came back sort of on the outskirts of that realization that this plan wasn't working very well, and got my car out of the pound and the engine was blown. And so I could either pay to get the car fixed, pay my month's rent, and be broke with no car, or tuck tail and come back to Ohio, where I swore I would never come back to as a kid, and buckle down and sort of get life back in order again. And that for me was probably one of the bigger life transitions that I experienced, was that realization that I needed to humble myself and come back and really do some work on myself.
Well, I can tell you as a friend of yours that tuck and tail and coming back to Ohio and getting your life in order, you've done a hell of a job doing that.
Thank
you are pretty amazing at what you do as a mortgage professional and an entrepreneur, amongst all the other scenarios that you just walked us through. So that's pretty wild how you've arrived back here in Northeast Ohio.
I love it here.
It's definitely not a 2.5 mile island.
No, but it's funny. All my friends from Florida are like, "You're where?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Don't worry about it."
You've already been other places, but you were like an adult before you were an adult.
Again, peer oriented, growing up in the dorms. Truthfully, as a rebellious person, again, my parents couldn't tell me anything. I have a lot of trouble with that. But my peer group, those seniors, when I was a freshman, they won't just tell you; they'll beat it into you.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I had 77 brothers when I lived in the dorm.
Wow.
And definitely had a lot of learning experiences from that group of people that I wouldn't have had in my own house.
You had to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have that. You two are very similar in that regard. Had to grow up quickly.
I had to grow up quickly and take charge and do a lot of things. My mother was sick for a lot of years, and as an only child, and my dad was flying, had to go to work, pay the bills. He was doing his job. And I was at home with mom, who needed a lot of help. And we had a complete role reversal of parent and child. And most of my childhood memories are taking care of things, making sure that like the house was kind of tidy when dad got home, and that mom was doing okay. Was always worried about her 'cause she was not well. And it was just, she was the child and I was the parent. And so you grow up really, really quickly. So much so that when I was 15, we separated into 2 different households for the good of everyone's well-being mentally. And that left me at home with myself, and dad would fly a trip. And the first time that happened, leading up to this, he said, "So this is how we're going to do things. And I'm going to go fly this trip and I'll be back in 3 days, 3 nights, 4 days." And I think I was 14 going on to 15. We went to the grocery store. I had everything that I needed. I was to get myself to school, take care of like just things being there. And then he would be back. And he said, "If you screw this up, like one party, one wrong move, if you mess this up, I will have a nanny staying here with you." And I thought, I am too old for a nanny. Like, okay. All right. And I just ended up filling those shoes. I didn't even realize like the impact of that and what that's had on my life until you get further into adulthood, looking back and thinking, wow, I really did have to grow up fast. But it served me to the good.
Did you have a reversion in your 20s to wanting to be free?
Well, I went right into having a family. For what I recall as stability. I just needed stability. I didn't know that's what I needed, but I did. And I launched right into having 3 children in 4.5 years. And it wasn't until I turned 30-ish that not only did I have some rebellion, not some, I did. And I also really started to figure out who I truly was. And I think a lot of women can probably speak to that, where it's not until we're in our 30s that we actually know who we are. This whole growing, like, we're kind of late to the game with that, I think, compared to men. We just don't really figure it out. And I did. It took me till I was around 30, and I thought, okay, now I think I know who I truly am as a human, and I have to kind of reconstruct my life.
Yeah, and it takes going back and deconstructing what you've experienced to rebuild where you want to go, right? So you look back and go, oh, interesting. I remember that, but I didn't realize that it was part of the building blocks of who I am now.
Right. And I made mistakes, and I didn't always make the best decisions. And those wrong decisions help build character to who you are today. Buying, selling, or investing, we are the creative ones. Visit us at creativeones.com.
So a little bit about life lessons.
Failures.
Failures, good one.
We're going to intro into failures.
And then that ultimately leads to the successes, and team building and being around like-minded individuals is certainly what we aspire in ourselves, and to be around those kind of individuals. That's what's that? We were just talking off topic here about success. What was that thing you said? What was the definition?
Oh, I said that failure is stepping stones on the path towards success.
Maxwell?
Yes.
So you've had some failures, and people on the outside looking in, they don't recognize that.
Well, that's not fun to share and post about either. The failures.
No, it's the falsehood of social media these days. Everything's positive, right?
A lot of it is, yeah. And then you've built something from this past that you've had as a child growing up, and then you came back to Ohio. And when I first met you, you were new into the mortgage industry under your mom's umbrella. That I had had a few years of real estate experience, and I knew your mom as a mortgage broker. And everyone in our office and real estate agents were kind of like, I don't know, like, who's Will? Like, we always dealt with Carol. Like, let's just talk to Carol, who's Will? And then this is this, little young blondie coming into the industry. And good luck, kid.
And coming out of life in Florida and Austin, and had a much longer goatee and much longer hair, and still full of rebelliousness.
Cool kid.
You know, it's interesting to think back on how people perceive you when you're that age, especially in financial services, right? When you're young in financial services, it's difficult to be taken seriously.
Great sentence.
I'll tell you how we perceived you.
Oh no, this ought to be good.
We perceived you as Carol's son, young kid from we don't know where, partier, probably didn't take things seriously, needed a job. As mom said, okay, you can come work for us. And this is the story we were telling ourselves. And then you cannot also speak to Will until after 11 a.m. He was out partying the night before, is not going to answer his phone at 9 a.m. And we need answers on this appraisal, and we can't get a hold of him.
He's on his third dream at 7 a.m. back in those days.
And it was a little bit of truth, and then also a lot of falsehood there.
I feel like we all get to a point where we have something inside of us that needs to come out. Whether it's rebellion against society, rebellion against work or music or people. And for me, it was just this desire to be around people. And to this day, I'm still that way. That's why I love this industry, because we really get the opportunity to be around a lot of different people and experience a lot of different personalities. And we get to learn a lot about yourself when you interact with other people. And at that point in my life, that desire to be around other people was maybe focused on the wrong scene and the wrong aspect of life. I mean, right for me at that point in time. But it's certainly interesting to think about transitioning from coming from Austin and coming from Fort Lauderdale to Ohio, where a lot of people will be like, what is there to do in Ohio, right?
The real estate metropolis of the world.
Yeah. But
Little podunk town.
I still to this day tell everybody how much I love it here. And I do. I think that this is a hidden secret that we try not to broadcast too much to other people.
It's eclectic, and it's a great place to be able to just get to know people, because as I'm not from Salem, and I would tell you that being able to go out in this town and actually have conversations as real as you can, the reciprocity. There's people in this town, small businesses in this town, the revitalization that's going on in this town is very much community centric, and I know we're all about that. So especially being Rotarians, and all of us having our own small business in this town, building teams. So you have a team. And a lot of what you do in your professional life is shaped by your personal life. You have a team. We have a team here at Corbett Consulting as well. So
Yeah, why do we have teams? Why did we do that? There's a lot of people that don't have teams.
they do it all themselves. And I mean, you were just talking a little bit about that. Leverage that. Tell us about your concept of team building.
I feel like first you have to learn to let go. Because when you've taken, so coming out of the foreclosure crisis, had worked for Mom for 7 or 8 years in the loan officer seat. And she said, hey, I love this job and I love this career, but I don't want to be in the hot seat anymore. I don't want to be in the stress seat. And so she said, you have to either step up or we have to go find new jobs. And so I was put in a position, it was 2009 when I stepped up and began to run the business as my own. And when I moved back, I worked in a machine shop from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and went to college from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. until I graduated. So I grinded. Like I came back with my mindset and I needed to get my stuff together. And yes, I still had fun. I still went out. We still lived that lifestyle. But it was never... it was always a hobby. It wasn't a choice of life, right? And so no matter what we did for that hobby, we would always come back the next day knowing we had to show up and do work. And that stopped. I got married in 2009, right about the same time as this transition. And at a certain point...
A woman intervention.
Yes, yeah, it's serious. No, I met the woman of my dreams in Ohio.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
After living in all these different places... and yeah, she's my rock, man. But either way, so coming back to realizing that this was my thing, at a certain point you get, if you stick to the foundational aspects of business, you answer your phone, you reply to emails, you have honesty and integrity, you have a strong ethical background in what you want to do and the decisions that you make, you'll start to see the momentum of that train.
Great word.
Yeah, it built on itself. And eventually that train, all of a sudden you go from having to really work hard to get every turn of those train tracks moving to all of a sudden there's inertia and it's pushing you forward. And you don't have to really do as much to be able to accomplish the same amount.
One of the things that I am very similar, we're all very similar in this regard with you, is you have your team, but you're an amazing collaborator. So you have teams within teams. And the relationships that you build have allowed you to build that momentum even further, not just locally. I mean, locally, you're extremely well connected, and you're well connected throughout the country as well. You were just talking about some folks down in Texas where you had to give a speech on the spot. Imagine that, you having to run your mouth.
That was an experience for sure. The delegating piece, though, building a team, when that train gets moving at that speed, eventually you have to attach a car to the back because you need to be able to carry more. You need to be, if you want to continue to grow, you have to do more. And when you attach that car, guess what you have to do? You got to go back to working again, right? The inertia that you have that's moving you forward, all of a sudden you have to go back to working. And I shared this with you guys another day, I think, but talking about this idea of a relay race and the carrying of a baton.
Do that. That's an amazing analogy.
It's kind of funny and embarrassing at the same time. But, you know, if most of the things that we do in life are relay related, right? We run a certain portion of the race, and at a certain portion or a point in time, we have to let go. We have to hand the baton to someone else and have faith and confidence in their ability to do their job. Well, when you're building your own team and you've spent 5 years building it to what it is, and your relationships and your reputation and everything are on the line. When you hand that baton off, you can run next to them without really even knowing that you're running next to them, and kind of be like, next, I'm right here. If you want to hand that baton, hand it. If you're having trouble, if you need a break, just hand that off to me. I'm right here. I'd be happy to run this portion of the race for you. And what you don't realize is you're expending twice the energy. You're paying someone to run that portion of the race, and you're running next to them. And so at a certain point, you just have to realize you have to allow people to fail. You got to hand them the baton, let them run. And that image that we all have of the relay race where the baton gets dropped and it tumbles topsy-turvy down the side, it's going to happen. And you have to give them permission for that to happen.
There's a lot of micromanagers out there.
Yeah, and the challenge with that is you cap your own growth. If you can't learn to hand off the baton and let other people run that portion of the race, then you'll never be able to grow beyond your own capabilities, because you'll never be able to hand off this portion. So the team building for me, it was extremely challenging. To this day, it's still very hard. There are still things that
Of course it is.
Yeah, you have to remind myself, hey, I could do that, and I could probably do it a little faster than what they're doing it. So I might as well just do it. No. And now I might as well just do it. Go ahead and let them do it, and focus your energies on the things that you're supposed to be doing.
60 to 80% of what you can do, if you're good at what you're doing, 60, 80% of that is okay to allow someone else to do that too.
The 80% rule. It is one of the hardest things in the world to...
I'm extremely guilty of that. I really struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon is so much better at that than I am. And so much to the point where I'm like, why aren't you doing that?
Well, you have to give
do
people...
that so much faster.
Yes, and he looks at me like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. You got to empower people to want to be present in what you're building, and that empowering them to feel that way because it's true and it's realistic really builds the bonds that, I mean, you have an amazing team, and you're not a team builder that has a lot of doors that swing open and close. I mean, when they come to the team, they're on the team. And it's just a testament to the way that you also built with a brand at Fairway, and your Fairway. And that's not changed despite all the changes that happen in the mortgage industry. And that profession is a revolving door of revolving doors. The fact that you can still have that sign on the door when you walk in this town is very, it's a testament to the way you do things.
There's a lot of turnover in the mortgage industry and in the real estate industry. Agents on a team, off a team. Agents hop to different signs. They think if they go to a different agency, like things will just be different. It's always hard to look in the mirror, and your consistency with that branding is, truly a testament to what you've built.
Thank you. It's I love the idea of that we just show up and do the daily disciplines every single day, and the results happen. Right? There's no light switch that just one day it's like, bam, there it is. All of a sudden, you made it. Right? No, it's compounding effort of daily disciplines over and over again that turn into this ability to have a brand, to have success, to have a team. None of those things happen overnight.
How do you empower people? How do you truly empower people when you're building a team? What are some things that you do or say?
Oh, you speak belief into them. You tell them how much you believe in them. You tell them how much faith you have in them. And you tell them how confident you are in their ability to do it. And you tell other people how much you love that person. Right? I can't wait for you to meet this person. They're amazing. In fact, you're probably going to like them more than you like me. Right? And that part, that speaking that into them, so speaking confidence into them and speaking love into other people when it comes to them, when those two things intersect with one another, now instead of one of my teammates calling a client and them going, "You're who? What?" Now they're like, "Oh, I know. William told me all about you. Like, you're amazing." And they don't even know them.
Yeah.
They haven't even met them yet. But simply because of that warm introduction and your ability to speak belief into them, I feel like it's such an important aspect of having a team.
I think one of the more if I can take it one step further, is telling people something is one thing. You show people, and the difference is people watch what we do at the level that we do it, and the very big difference, just taking it one step further and further emphasizing, not only the way that you do things, but certainly the way that you do things. And I'll not pat myself on the back. I just think that people watch, and you can talk all you want, but you have to be able to walk it. And walking the concepts that we're talking about today with team building, how certain ebb and flow in our lives have shaped us to where we've arrived today. There's a lot of synergy at this table right now.
It is. I think another point to the team building is when you truly view your team members as equals to you is a huge difference. So Brandon and I have a big pet peeve about any members on our team ever referring us to as the boss or my boss. Like, no one's the boss of anybody else. We couldn't do what we do without you.
Yeah.
We're truly all in this together. And the train doesn't keep going down the tracks if you slack. And I don't keep leading the train if I'm slacking. And we all have to work together to do that. And I think empowering the team to see that vision is also really, really big. And yeah, we're not the boss of anybody.
Yeah, our CEO at Fairway, Steve Jacobson's his name. We call him Jake. Jake always talks about trust, and how important it is that we have each other's back. And I think that's also one of the most important things about having teammates and a team that you're delegating to, that you're working towards a goal with. They have to know that you have their back, that if something happens, that you're not going to immediately turn to them and have that WTF moment, but instead you're going to say, I'm there, I'm in front of them, I have their back, I'm behind them, I support them, I trust them, and that if they're going to take a fall, I'm going to take a fall with them.
So you said something about you have to do it when they're not looking, or what you do behind the scenes, people see, like you have to walk the walk. So there was this one moment I'll share with you at our office in Salem, and I had a view out the window. I was having a phone conversation. I was doing one of those pacing phone calls where I'm just talking and walking at the same time. It was not a high stress or any conversation. I'm just pacing around the front talking. And you were walking up the sidewalk with someone from your team, and they were having a not so great day. You could tell. And you were walking up the sidewalk and you had your arm around their shoulder, and there was some conversation and emotion happening. And I thought, wow, like something, I don't know what that story is and something was happening though, but a testament to what I saw when you didn't even know I was looking.
It's crazy how we do things on a day-to-day basis without any awareness of how other people are perceiving you.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to. Another CEO ism from Fairway says you have to dance when the spotlight hits you, kind of thing, right? And so we're all put in these positions where, like, yeah, having a bad day, proof is in the pudding. Either you're going to just say, well, suck it up, we got work to do, or no, let's try to figure this out together.
When you have a wingman or wingmen, women, etc.
When you have wing women,
the phrase wingman, wing women. At this point in our lives and in our careers, we're just not going to get things accomplished on our own. And through leadership and through team building and collaboration, another great word, probably one of my favorite words, I would say that the three of us do that extremely well. We certainly make mistakes. I certainly make mistakes along the way, right? I feel like that's part of being a good leader is being able to recognize when you made a bad decision and made a mistake and own it and demonstrate to the rest of the team that you're not perfect, that you don't have it all together. I laugh about this so I have a 12-year-old daughter. Wow.
And
it's about to get fun.
Yes. And with Scarlett is her name, I have apologized more to Scarlett than any other person in my life.
Yeah.
And kind of a shocking realization to me, because as I've talked to other men in my circle, and I've asked the question and pondered the question, Did your dad ever apologize to you?
I lived in a split family, and my mother and father divorced when I was, I think, 5 years old, and Dawn and Mom relocated us to Central Pennsylvania. And so I won't be able to say, I'm sure he did, and I'm sure that it was probably about, now that you ask, the failed relationship with, Mom, and my dad's name is Jim. Dad's since passed away. So yes, he did. And Dad was, so I follow in the footsteps of my father in the sense of being a networker, the guy that people call to say, hey, if I need somebody, you call Brandon.
Brandon's the Noah guy.
And that was my dad across all kind of spectrums. So I think, in his later years, he realized that because of that, he didn't spend as much time at home with us when we were present, even though we were not, together all the time. So putting me on the spot as you did, I will say, yes, he did. And I just had to kind of, work through that mentally.
I feel like, so I, as I've pondered this, I feel like I as a dad am modeling imperfection. And I feel like generationally, my generation of parents modeled perfection.
Sure.
Right? They were right. You were to respect adults. You were to listen to grown-ups. Grown-ups are never wrong. You do not question them. They are perfect, right? And so there wasn't
authoritative.
Yes,
Very.
Yeah, there wasn't this idea that, and I struggled with this growing up, that they're just another human, right? As what's his name would say, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like I do, right? And I feel like as I've grown into parenting, of course, changes all of us as humans. There's a lot of self-reflection.
Yes, it does.
But this idea that I'm modeling imperfection is certainly an interesting, as a leader and as a father and as a husband and a teammate. I guess that's the definition of humility, right? Being humble is being able to say that I make mistakes and that I'm not perfect and that I certainly have a lot to learn.
Well, it's certainly going to make the people better around you for doing that too. A distinctive approach to passive income with luxury vacation rentals.
For more information, check out our website, quinvestors.com.
So we've been telling a few stories about life, and it just dawned on me, Texas, the trip to Austin, and we were just talking about another trip to Texas. And both of them ended up coming back to Ohio. And now your gutsy move. Tell us this gutsy move that's getting ready to happen.
I had not connected those dots personally yet. So good job. Good on you for doing that. That I had gone through that big life transition saying, I'm going to humble myself and tuck tail and leave Austin and come back to Ohio. And our annual meeting with Fairway Independent Mortgages in Dallas at the Gaylord Texan. And I've gone to probably 7 or 8 years worth of annual meetings. And we had our last annual meeting with an awards ceremony 2 years ago. And the people who had run the awards ceremony up to that point had both retired or left. So they decided to change the format of the awards ceremony to bring in loan officers and regional managers to come in and assist with the awards ceremony. So we're up there. It's at the very end, the last night of the event. It's a big party. Everybody's having fun. We're reading lots of names, shaking lots of hands. And on the stage left is the CEO. So they'll walk across the stage. They'll get their plaque. They'll go stand with the CEO, get their photo op, and then move on. And about 3/4 of the way through. So let me back up. Leading up to this, knowing that I would be on stage, I take those kinds of things seriously. So I did some research and took a class on utilizing my vocal instrument and a lot of different things about melody and pitch and pausing and intonation and all the art that goes behind utilizing your vocal instrument. So leading into this, I had sort of prepared myself for speaking, right? Even though I knew I was just going to be on stage reading names. And about 90% of the way through, the CEO walks over to me and says, "You got to wrap us up."
Say what?
Yeah. So there's 2,800 people in the audience, and we're on our last few names. And the CEO is supposed to come up. Everybody knows him and expects him to come up, and he got some news that prevented him from being in the right state of mind to come up on stage. And so I had to wrap us up. And my wonderful wife, thank goodness, was there, and she was able to record me so that I could see. And we had talked about my work on my vocal instrument up to that point. One lesson that he gives to everybody who takes the course is that you need to alert your spouse and anybody that knows you well when you are working on your vocal instrument, because your character and who people believe you are is very closely associated with your voice. And if you start to change your voice, people will think that you have changed.
Tonality.
Yes. So she was aware only because we've had these conversations. And so coming back from that opportunity, feeling empowered and being given the opportunity to do something like that, I continued to work on that and step out and do more classes. Within Fairway, I've taught about 700 loan officers through a class called the Total Business Blueprint. And so recently, 4 or 5 days ago, decided to step out of my shell and do that here in our area in Northeastern Ohio. We had an annual planning event that for this particular one was just invite only, inner circle people to share an activity that we have done as a team within our office for 6 or 7 years. And rather than doing it just ourselves in our office, this time we did it with 28 other people in a room.
Nice.
And
Collaboration.
yeah, and it takes a lot of transparency and a lot of humbleness and a lot of honesty to step out and go, okay, let's reflect on our last year together.
Transparency is the sun of profession, and sun cures a lot of ills.
And when you teach, you learn. And if you're going to get up and stand in front of a room of 28 people, your business plan better be looking pretty good. You don't slack when you are the responsible party in front of the room.
Yeah, and I think also, again, going back to, modeling imperfection, it's okay to get up there and say, you know what, I'm still working on that. And some people will feel empowered. Oh my gosh, okay, he's working on that, so am I.
Relatable.
I feel okay about my life situation.
Yep.
In fact, for me, that is how I get energy refills in life. Is the act of being in connection with someone else, knowing that they're going through the same thing I am, whether it's as a parent, as a dad, as a loan officer, somebody in the industry, whatever it is. If I can look next to me and go, oh, he got, okay, it's not just me. There's some relief there knowing that.
And if you have yourself in the right circle of people, someone else will complete the task and or lift you up to finish it. Not the misery loves company. We're all going down together.
Correct.
Like, oh gosh, okay, we were on the same page and now they're finished, so I better step this up.
Yeah, the enemy would have us believe that we're alone in our situation, and simply knowing that you're not alone sometimes is enough to help us go, okay, put a little pep in your step and help you rise above it. So funny, gutsy move, leaving Texas, coming back to Ohio, swallowing that piece of humble pie. Going back to Texas, being given the opportunity and the platform, and now carrying that forward to this coming year, having quarterly events where we'll collaborate with other people to show up and speak. We'll do another January. We're going to do a one-word exercise, which is John Gordon and Jimmy Page. They believe, and we all know, that New Year's resolutions all fail. A large percentage of them. So instead, he does one word to theme your year. And we've done this again for 6-7 years, just never put it out there for other people to do it. And we're going to do that as well.
So it's interesting that you say that. And as you say that live, Kate and I swear we were just in Austin in November. And we were in Austin for the one thing.
Oh, cool.
And our one thing for 25, Gutsy Moves. So how all of this is just morphing together live on the show here is pretty phenomenal. And to have it all originate in the great state of Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, I guess, right? Even ideas.
It's amazing that we get the opportunity in life to travel and learn from other people in books to experience the lives of other people and learn from them and learn how we can better ourselves in life as a parent and a employee and a worker and a boss and a leader. Somebody in the history of mankind has gone down the path that we're trying to go down. And there will certainly be a story out there somewhere for us to reflect on.
So in a similar way that you have your one word, and I know we don't have that yet for 2025, still going to find that. We're talking about our one thing, which is Gutsy Moves, and how we're moving into Quinvestors with our collaboration in different markets, doing what Will's going to be doing locally for workshops. And we find very similar opportunities in those markets through collaboration. So I think as if we continue our conversations this morning, it just further goes to show the threads that we weave are very similar. And collaboration, actually, that's one of my one thing words this year: mastery, collaboration.
You two have collaborated, and you're competitors for a lot of years there, and I think you're amazing examples.
Well, we share. He shares well. I share well. He's probably a better sharer than I am, I guess, probably from being a solo
It's
kid.
like the kindergarten report card, shares well with others.
I think you guys have, this is cool. This idea of learning what the risks that other people have taken, and whether they paid off or didn't pay off, right? It was a decision on somebody's part to make a gutsy move. And it's cool to learn from other people without calling it share your fails or share your mistakes, right? Because certainly you could look back on some of your gutsy moves and be like, wow, I really could have done that better, right? But instead we're reflecting on how that decision that we made impacted our lives going forward. And it's a fun act. It's a fun act of reflection on life. And thank you for having me and having me reflect for a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. We work on ourselves well. So thanks for coming along.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.